Assalamu alaikum. Do you feel like you're missing out on learning or understanding the Arabic language? Maybe you're longing to understand what it is that you're reciting in Salah, or you just want to perhaps be able to conversate and understand lectures in Arabic. If so, I want to let you know that there's a way. And that way is through our partner for this episode, International Open University. The International Open University offers flexible Arabic programs in the form of either an intensive 2-year course, a bachelor's degree in Arabic, and a master's degree in Arabic. These courses are designed to fit your own schedule, and so you can study at your own pace from the comfort of your own home and any time that suits you. You'll explore classic Arabic texts, understand the Quran in its original language, and deepen your connection to Islamic heritage. Visit iou.edu.gm/FG to learn more and also to get a discount on your semester fees. If you enroll now, you'll get early access before September to study materials as well as a 10% discount. Start your journey today with IOU and enrich your life with the timeless wisdom of the Arabic language. Let's get into the episode.
You know, he's actually a proper fan of your show, bro. He's always like, bro, freshly grounded, man, we need to get you on there.
Oh man, that's very...
I listened to it on my way to work.
Alhamdulillah.
You've been saying that for a while. Alhamdulillah.
I've known him more than 3 years, and he's been talking about freshly grounded the whole time, mashallah.
Yeah, because you know what? I've seen your content. We're rolling actually, so we might as well just get started here. So I've seen your content online, but it was interesting because it was brought to me from the algorithm through YouTube, and often when I discover people, I'll discover them on Instagram, short form. But I actually discovered your content on YouTube, and I think you got great thumbnails.
Thumbnails are good.
Your thumbnails are very enticing. Yes,
we're working on that. So we just started since April after Ramadan. We started.
Just bring your mic slightly closer, bro.
Full on. With the team and the head of content and the full thing, because I thought I've dabbled in content for a while. We had a strategic off-site in January here in Dubai with all my business partners.
Oh, nice.
They're like, listen, the best thing you can do strategically for the next 10 years is just focus on content. That will help everything that we're doing. And alhamdulillah, all my content is educational. It's not entertainment. I'm not that entertaining of a person. It's all educational. It's faith-based. It's business. So I do love it. That's what I love doing. And we thought, let's put some serious resource behind it.
I think yesterday we were talking about the fact like life's a game of inches, right? And we were saying about how like you have to focus on different small things as well, and they all make the ingredients for success. And I think one of the small things that works with you is that you always also look very sharp. Allah barak. You got on your content, like you make sure but you have a unique look about you, and
it's the Malaysian face.
You present yourself very well. Allah barak. I think that adds to it as well.
I was born in Italy.
Yeah, were you? You're born in Italy, Malaysian face, Bangladesh.
It's like confusing. Yeah. Like, where's this guy from? What is he? What species is this guy?
But the content, is the content a long-term play? Because I imagine that your content doesn't necessarily get you your business from the angle of what you do. So you're focused on the property game, and I want to dive a little into kind of what it is that you do in property. But is the content more for the long-term play of eventually being able to build an education side of your business?
Absolutely. So we're doing a bit of a pivot, moving away from So last 2.5 years, my focus was how do I help Muslim brothers and sisters in the UK transition from the corporate life to entrepreneurship and financial independence. That was the goal. And property was the vehicle that was working the best. I tried many things. Can I help them create a course? Can I help them? Can I refer them to someone else's course who's teaching Amazon FBA? Nothing worked. What worked is what I know and do best, which is a proven method. So that's what I focused on for a while. And then I'm realizing, and by the way, mashallah, alhamdulillah, that property program, and it's a program, it's not a course. We have a whole team. There's 7 layers of support and value. Not only is that 7-figure business in and of itself, it's actually getting results. Every month, people are getting properties. People are becoming financially independent. 6 months, 12 months, that's all it takes.
So when did you start in this property business, and what is it specifically? Because there's different types, there's different things you can do in property, right? There's obviously buying and selling, and then there's like real estate, kind of like what we do at Wasia. but it seems like there's a big movement towards kind of rent to rent, Airbnb and things like that. Is it more kind of in that space?
Yes, absolutely. So for me, I got into property, as many entrepreneurs say, unintentionally. It came out of a place of desperation, that I was trying so many ventures in my search for financial independence and freedom, because I realized if I want to make impact in this world and do all of the things that I want to do, I can't be spending 80 hours a week at Barclays, at Goldman Sachs. These are the places that I was basically planning as an economics graduate from the LSE. That's kind of what I was aiming for. I realized I need to find another way to make 2-3 grand a month. And I tried so many different things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And it came to a point where I was like, I just need somehow to get 2 grand a month, steady, that recurring income. And then I looked into, okay, what are the businesses that can give me that? And property came up. And surprisingly, there's many ways to make money from property, and a lot of them are halal. It's not just buy to let and flips and all of that stuff. So,
because I think that when I hear anything to do with finances, property, investing, and things like that, instantly you have a bit of a mindset of, oh, I've got to be careful here from the Islamic element, right? Yeah. And you have your guard up a bit. And I think like what actually intrigued me about your content is that it's very focused on being riba-free, focusing on the fact that I think numerous times in your YouTube content you say, and all of this without riba, and all this without riba, and this is halal. And I think that's very enticing as a Muslim, because that is your concern. And so if you know what the concern it would be of a Muslim, constantly attacking that and making that clear is quite a good strategy. How is it riba-free? How do you ensure that you're keeping everything halal?
Before I answer that, I just want to mention that I've been fighting riba from the age of 17. I didn't take any loans for uni.
Wow.
I took a gap year.
Would you?
I was working part-time throughout uni. I was doing internships every summer.
You almost started working at Barclays. You almost lost it all there.
I did an internship there, which helped me pay for... it was in HR, so it wasn't dealing with anything. So I've been on this sort of very strong anti-riba stance from day one. And I've seen Allah's promise come true. Yeah. That when you forsake and give something up, which is, I could easily take a maintenance loan. I can find a little fatwa from somewhere that justifies it. But I thought, you know what, actually, I'll take a year out. In the grand scheme of things, it's not the end of the world. I'll take a year out. Everybody advised me against it. And I said, even if I have to deliver pizzas or stack shelves in Sainsbury's, I'll do it. What's the problem? Just 1 year. And the minute I made that decision, and everybody was against it, my parents, my friends, everyone. SubhanAllah, I got a job at Deloitte at 17 years old.
Wow.
Top graduate employer. And that's when I realized, whoa, it does work when you forsake something for the sake of Allah. Because until then, I just read it on a quote.
Yeah.
Or I just read it in a book. Yeah. Now I've seen it. And then, subhanAllah, once you experience it, then it gives a little bit more courage. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to buy a house without riba.
Yeah.
I have a plan. And I haven't done that yet. But at the moment, I'm probably maybe 6 to 12 months away from being able to do that. Like being able to buy something cash if I really wanted to. But for me, that's like very low down the priorities list. The second thing, why I always mention without riba, it's in my bios everywhere. That we specifically, I feel uncomfortable saying that we make X amount of revenue every year. At the moment, it's 8.5 million a year in property without a penny of riba, is to drive home a message, to break people's mental models that actually it can be done. It's a limiting belief that people have. That, property, you have to do it with riba. Come on, how else? No. It's showing people that it can be done without it. You just have to be willing to be creative, willing to take that risk. So for me, it was like, okay, how do I get 2 grand a month in rental income without any riba? So either I'm going to have to find loads of funding from somewhere or borrow money from loads of people, interest-free, to try and buy something. But then obviously the rental income would have to be split. So it makes no sense for me. I won't get my £2,000.
Or you'll be spending such a long time paying those people off. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that obviously doesn't make sense. But then
Yeah.
actually, hold on. Billion-dollar companies like Hilton, Marriott, they don't own any real estate, but they're turning over billions a year. They play the rent-to-rent game as well. When Hilton wants
didn't
to
know that.
open, many people don't,
Yeah.
which is why I'm gonna say
You
it
think
loud
that a
and
business
clear.
in that of that size would benefit from owning their land and properties and stuff?
Well,
right?
think about it. When Hilton wants to open a new hotel in Mecca, Monaco, Milan, Mauritius, it's far easier for them to lease a hotel
That's
for
true.
25 years than to purchase a hotel for $50 million, pounds, whatever. And all they do, they just lease it for 25 years. They take over the full management, they do it up, they brand it, and then they run the business on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what we do on a smaller scale. We provide rooms for corporate professionals in London.
Ah, okay. So you've like niched down as well.
Niche town, yeah.
Right.
And the idea is to be provide the best rooms in London.
Okay. So I imagine it must be difficult to convince landlords to take over their homes. I've seen some reels of this guy who films himself calling landlords. Have you seen that
Yeah,
guy?
I've
I
seen
can't remember. I don't know who his
People
name.
are telling me you should do the same.
Yeah, but like the landlords are like, so you expect me to rent you my property and I don't know who's going to be staying in it and and you're going to be benefiting. I want a piece of the property. And then he's like, and then his answer is like, yeah, I can understand your concern. And they're going to be corporate professionals and stuff like that. So how do you have those conversations?
This is actually the hardest part when you're starting out.
Okay.
When you're a nobody, which I was. By the way, I had zero experience in property. No one in my family is involved in property. No one in my family is in business, full stop.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
By the way, I apologize about
Yeah.
how cold it is in the room.
I love it.
Fine.
Alhamdulillah.
Because we have to keep all the equipment cool. It's like 40 degrees
That's
outside.
so good. It keeps me awake.
Fine.
So that's another thing that I try to be vocal about. Is look, I came to the UK without speaking a word of English.
Okay.
Parents both minimum wage healthcare workers. We lost our home in 2012. Parents divorced. There's literally, you can stack reasons why I shouldn't be successful in a game as difficult as business. But we don't let those things become excuses. We use those things to fuel us. So my message is, if I can do it, if I can make £1,000 from property a month without any riba, then everybody watching right now, you probably can as well. If I can do it, and that is the question that changed my life, because when I met a lady, English lady, she had about 35 properties, same business model. I was researching and I attended an event. She was working 30 minutes a week managing her portfolio because she had a team. And she was just traveling, going to yoga retreats, going to Africa to volunteer for UNICEF. And I was like, if she can do it,
Wow.
why can't I? I mean, that's the lifestyle that a Muslim should have.
Yeah.
That the business is set up, it's running on its own, and we have the full freedom to actually focus on our purpose. And I thought, if she can do it, so can I. And that's where my journey started in terms of the property side. And I never thought in a million years that I'd be in property. I knew I was going to be in business eventually, but not property, subhanAllah. So Allah guides you and takes you on paths beyond your expectation. And we should welcome that and be open-minded.
You mentioned yesterday briefly, or the day before, that there was a point at which you like 10x'd your business with one decision.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a bit about that?
Yes, and that was, mashallah, again, linked to another thing that I always talk about, which is learn as much as you can. So books, and mashallah, you're in the self-development space as well. People learn through watching your content, so I'm sure you will relate. Came across this concept that it's 10x is easier than 2x, and I was like, that's a bit strange. And got the book. It was actually explained to me by a friend that I met at a mastermind event.
Okay.
Now check this out. One weekend, £10,000 are paid. Dollars, to be in a room with 8 and 9 figure Muslim entrepreneurs. And I actually didn't learn that much from those guys as much as I thought I would. I learned more from some of the participants and some of the conversations we had. And one of those conversations was, think 10x, don't think 2x. So don't think about how can I double my business in the next 12 months. Think about how can I 10x my business in the next 3 years or 5 years. And we did this exercise yesterday.
We did.
And we noticed that the conversation is very different.
Very different.
Very, very different,
Yeah.
right? So for us, it was a case of we're speaking to landlords. These landlords may have 1 property, 2 properties, and we're investing all of this time speaking to landlords. If I really wanted to 10x my business, I need to speak to people who have more properties. Another question is, who has more properties? Who's got 10, 20, 30, maybe 100 properties? Portfolio landlords, investment funds, developers, and agents. So we shifted our attention to these, and subhanallah, that
Wow.
the 10x came from there.
Yeah, because even if it's you know, twice as hard to pitch or close an agent, because they have to obviously perhaps speak to landlords and stuff. You get, with one sale, you might get, 10, 20, 30 properties,
yeah.
as opposed to...
Yeah, there's some agents that have given us as much as 80 properties.
Wow.
One agent currently is transferring his entire portfolio over 200 plus
I suppose
properties.
because they can guarantee rent, can't they? Which is what they get out of you is
Yeah.
consistent rent.
Yeah.
And then what you do with it is up to you.
So you asked me about how do you speak to landlords,
Yeah.
right? So let's do a quick role play right now.
Okay.
So let's assume you have a nice house.
Yeah.
You've now moved to Dubai.
Yes.
And you've got like a nice 3-bed property
Yes.
in Rice Slip
Okay.
or Harrow or somewhere.
Fine. Okay.
And obviously, what's your main concern now that you're all the way here and you're
Mhm.
trying to rent out your property to try and get above income?
Yep.
What would be your main concerns?
Well, I want consistency of income.
Okay.
And I want to make sure that people aren't partying and breaking my property. And so I don't mind spending money on maintenance if it's reasonable.
Sure.
And I don't mind actually losing out a bit of... I don't mind losing out on a bit of profitability if it meant that I can secure the fact that it's consistent and my property is safe.
So,
I know that I could probably max my revenue by managing it all myself, but that's not a luxury that I have of time and
of
stuff
course,
like that.
because you're all the way here.
That's
and
probably
you
all of
wanna-
my pain points and my things that I
Gotcha.
would consider.
So what type of tenants do you think would be the best tenants to have so then they're not trashing your property?
Families
Mm-hmm.
and I would optimize for families.
The problem with families is they have kids, they have pets, they have
That's true.
they have barbecues, get-togethers, and all of that stuff. I'll
Yeah.
tell you, what we found that works really well is a 27-year-old from Manchester who just got a job in London, wants a nice place. He's just to come and sleep because he's always in the office. Comes home in the evenings. He'll eat something, take away, doesn't even use the kitchen, watch some Netflix, go to bed, back to the office tomorrow. So we can possibly, in your 3-bed, we can have 3 or 4 because maybe we can convert your living room into a 4th room, but we can have 4 single professionals living there, and we can guarantee you the income, and it's going to be very, very close to what you would have got if you managed it yourself.
Okay, so if
How
you
does
were,
that sound?
if for example, the guy loses his job, he has to go back home to Manchester, it wouldn't affect my income.
Never, no. Because firstly, we would only accept him as a tenant if he had a guarantor
Okay.
and enough savings to cover 3 to 6 months worth of...
Fine.
These guys are on 40, 50, 60K salaries.
Mm-hmm.
But they come to London and they don't want to spend $2,000 a month on a studio or on a 1-bed. It makes more sense for them. And also, they get to live with other people so they don't feel isolated, like-minded people.
Okay.
And even if none of them pay us, as a company, we're contractually we need to pay you every single month. And till this day, alhamdulillah, 5 years in, we've never missed a single payment.
That's amazing.
And here's a list of 100
Yeah, yeah.
landlords that you can speak to and ask
Yeah.
them about us. And here's
Okay,
our
well,
Trustpilot
I suppose
reviews.
my two other concerns would be, one, is it legal?
Mhm.
And how can you ensure that it's legal? Because I've not dived into this space before. And the second concern would be, there's a lot of bad rep with let-to-let and subletting.
Absolutely.
And there's so much bad rep that I've always just decided to just stay away from that space because of how dirty of an industry it seems like. So how can you guarantee me that it's, professional and smooth and legal?
The bad rep exists, and it's a fact of the industry, which is why I thought we would come in and raise the bar a little bit. So there's nothing I can say that can convince you that we're not that kind of agent. Come to the office. Let me take you to at least 5 of our properties. Meet the tenants. Speak to them yourself. Here's a list of agents, not landlords like you, agents who are giving us 30, 40, 50 properties a year. You do your own research and see whether we're those kind of...
And what about the
this kind.
legality? Do I have to do anything? Do I have to change like the license on my property or anything like this to... Or
Yeah, so technically
Okay.
speaking, I would only be chatting to you if you had a compliant property.
Fine, okay.
Yeah, just a normal 3-bed in rice slip wouldn't cut it, but for
Okay.
the sake of this conversation,
Fine.
yeah. But
How-
there
how
are
do-
there
how
are
do
there are
landlords get- How do
legalities.
landlords get that?
Sorry?
How do landlords go from just owning a 3-bed in rice slip to actually having one that they can sublet?
Yeah.
Is it
So
just licensing?
there is something called the HMO license.
Okay.
HMO is a house of multiple occupancy.
Okay.
So in most areas, it's quite easy to get the license.
Okay.
In London now, it's become harder because they don't want any more shared homes. So we just work with what's there, and
Okay,
there's
fine.
more than 10,000 HMOs in London. So
Okay, fine.
we don't need that many.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, wow, that's
Alhamdulillah,
amazing.
alhamdulillah.
That's pretty phenomenal. And then you have a program that basically teaches how to get into this business, this line of work.
Yes, because people always have this thing that they want to get into property, but the only thing holding them back is riba. So what if you could get into property without riba?
Mhm.
And what if you could get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 pounds a month? And I have mentees who are at that level. They're making more income from their portfolio than they make from their day job, which, by the way, is a sign that maybe you should quit. So that is possible. And for 2.5 years, I actually wasn't involved in running my day-to-day property business. I stepped away from it completely, which shows you that it's a systemizable business. You can step away. And I focused on actually the coaching, mentoring, and helping other brothers and sisters. So we've had more than probably 200 brothers and sisters, all the way from Glasgow down to Brighton. Alhamdulillah, there's more than probably 500 rooms
That you're renting out.
my mentees have.
Oh wow,
That's close
amazing.
to 50 grand a month in profit.
Wow.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
That was my dream. How can I help my ummah make halal income, financial independence, all of these things? I've actually been trying to do it since 2017.
Wow.
Not very successfully until I decided, okay, let me just teach what works.
Yeah.
I don't particularly love property. I don't dream about it every night. I don't dream about having tenants and all of that stuff, but it works.
Mm-hmm.
And alhamdulillah, those brothers and sisters who did take it seriously, they are getting the fruits. And what we're doing now is collaborating to create one national brand that hopefully we can exit in 3 to 5 years' time.
Allahumma barik. It sounds like, well, not just sounds like, but I know from having conversations with you over the last few days that your mission is way bigger than property, and property is just a vehicle or a vessel for you to achieve the goal that you want to achieve, which is to help Muslims be financially free and time free and stuff like that. Actually, what's interesting before we get into that is that I'm in this unique position right now where I'm by myself for the summer because it's just way too hot here. Kids are back in the UK.
Perfect. The time is great and the weather's great in London. Well,
Yeah, well, one thing that's come to my mind is that I have this opportunity that Allah's given me, and and this opportunity to be as productive as I can be, because I have no family obligations and commitments right now, right? I mean, I have obligations, but no commitments with my time, and so I can essentially wake up, do whatever I want, and go sleep, and then repeat for weeks. And I was thinking to myself that this is in some ways a test from Allah as well. Because we say, I think this is like the most common thing that a Muslim would say. And I think it's beautiful that we say this, by the way. But it's that if I had the freedom of time, I would spend my time studying the religion, doing my hifth and things like that, right? And I actually have that time now. And so how can I show Allah that if He was to give me more of this, more of time, if I had automated all of my wealth, and I never had to worry about money, that I would actually dedicate that time to what I say and what all of us say that we would do. Well, I actually have a version of that right now where I have lots of time.
MashaAllah.
Am I technically speaking, bro, there's been videos of people who have memorized the entire Quran in 3 months. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to do that. I know that's a special case, but the point is definitely that am I putting hours into my hifth every day? Because when my kids are here, my wife is here, I'm spending hours not working because I'm spending those hours with them. Whether it's a school run or it's like bedtime or taking the family out on the weekends, I don't work at all. It's just dedicated to family. Now I have the weekend. That's 48 hours. Take 16 hours out of that for sleep, and you get 32 hours. I think that's 32 extra hours. If I just did hifth for those 32 hours, I would never have had those 32 hours anyway if my family were here, right? If I did hifth for 32 hours a week, bro, then I can't imagine that I wouldn't have memorized the Quran. 32 hours times 4 is what?
That's like a full-time job.
37
hours is like a full-time contract.
But I'm not paying 32 hours in the Quran a week.
Yeah.
And so
But are you doing at least 2?
I'm doing I'm doing a lot more, but I can also do a lot more. And so it was a bit of a wake-up call for me recently. I was thinking about that. I was thinking, well, like I say that I want to do this, I want to do that. I want to like. You look at scholars and you think, well, we're going to be judged by the same Lord as the scholars are, and so we have to put in our time as well to study the religion. And am I doing that now? So I think one thing that's important for all of us to think about is when we think about time freedom, and we often think, I want to have more time to go to the masjid, I would have more time to do my hifth and stuff like that. If I didn't have to wake up at a certain time for work, I could like wake up, go to Fajr in the masjid and things like that. Yeah. Well, now you have that opportunity. Are you doing it? Or in the pockets, are you stretching where you can? Sheikh Muhammad Tim Humble, years ago when he was teaching in Dudley, yeah.
Wow.
This is like over 10 years ago, I think. He said that people would often ask me, how do I go to Medina? Yeah, how can you help me get to Medina to study? All right. And he said, what I say to those people is, have you exhausted all of your opportunities to gain knowledge where you are?
Yeah.
Because if you haven't exhausted those opportunities here, I'll tell you now that you're not just going to magically turn up at Medina and start studying knowledge. Because have you utilized the shuyukh, the classes here? Have you then maximized all of your classes in this area and then gone, I'm going to now travel an hour outside my area, and once we can go to that class, and then 2 hours outside my area, and then 3 hours outside my area, and then the weekends I'm staying in this. Have you done that? Because if you haven't exhausted your options here, what's to say that you're going to study in Medina? I think that's also the case when it comes to time. If you're on £2,000 a month, and you think, if only I could get £5,000 a month, then I can give more time to my religion. Well, have you maximized what you can do with your £2,000 a month, right? Yeah. And bro, this is a lesson for me.
So true.
So yeah, it's quite a big thing.
Yesterday we spoke about very similar thing, but in terms of charity.
Right.
Because we spoke about how charity is, and actually it's a growth strategy. It increases your wealth.
Yeah.
And it was a similar thing in terms of, are you showing Allah? And we said the same sort of articulation, that when you give charity, you're showing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you're not attached to this money. So if you want to be a charitable person, whether you have £10 million to give or £10 to give, you need to give. Because that giving shows that you truly are a giving person, and that's what will open the doors. Because Allah doesn't want to give you more money if He's going to corrupt you, if He's going to divert you away from Him. So that was sort of the mechanics. And it's the same thing with time, that we need to show and prove that we mean the intention.
Yeah, well, it's like it's like what you just said earlier about when you give something up for the sake of Allah, Allah will replace it with something better. Well, the one thing that helps me with that is remembering that it's impossible that Allah doesn't keep His promise.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a Muslim, you have to believe that what Allah says is the haqq, right? So if Allah's promise is that He will replace it with something better, it's impossible that can't be the case. Absolutely impossible. It cannot happen. When I tell myself that with that much assurity, then I say to myself, if I'm giving this truly for the sake of Allah, it is absolutely impossible that I'm losing this money, right? Often, like, I think it's easy for people to convince themselves with charity, but it's like, if a brother is in need in his time, if a brother is in need, like there's a hadith that says that if you help your brother in his time of need, Allah will help you. Well, if that's true, and as Muslims we have to believe it is true, then it should be so easy for us to give her, because like we're telling ourselves, I'm not, whatever I was worried about is not gonna happen. It's impossible that could happen, because I have I have knowledge of something that is essentially like that is not physically in front of me, but it's knowledge from the divine, from Allah.
But
right?
that takes faith.
It takes faith, of
That
course.
takes faith.
Of course, but as Muslims, the job of a Muslim is to believe, right? It's
But do we really believe?
No, it's true, and it's hard. It's difficult in action. It may be easier in theory, but the point I'm making is that for me to get over that hill, for that thing to be easier for me to do, that action to get easier for me to take, I have to tell myself with such enthusiasm, so much energy, that reminder that that the promise of Allah is the haqq, that it's impossible that Allah would break a promise. And also I often think about the precedent.
Yes.
I think has Allah, I ask myself this question on every time I have a worry. I ask myself this question on almost a daily basis, and I say to myself, has Allah let me down yet? And the answer is always no, of course.
Always.
And if that's the case, and the precedent is that Allah has never let me down, then what indication do I have to show me that Allah will let me down this time? 100% of the time He's not let me down. And statistically, it's it would be if I said to you, bro, like, if you're a betting man, this team, you bet on this team, and you would say to me, when these two teams have played each other, and they played each other millions of times, how many times has this team won? And I said to you, never. They've never won. But this time, bet on the team. You'd be like, you're crazy, right? And that's the case when we, right. So when we get worried and we think, maybe this is not gonna, I'm gonna be let down here, or what's best for me is not gonna happen. Well, that's never been the case. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent now. I wanted to know about this thing. So I want to give people some context that we're on we're doing this retreat, this Dubai retreat, and that's why you're here. And I was very kindly invited down, and it's really lovely. So it's put together by I suppose a few of the brothers, right? But the brother who invited me, I spoke to him 2 days ago. I said to him, bro, like, this is lovely, man. Like, what's the reason behind it and stuff? And he said, you know what? In the Ummah, there's just so much of competition. There's so much people that want to help each other, but we're all trying to achieve the same goal. And I wanted to get these brothers together who are high achieving brothers who execute fast. I want to put them together, and we can share ideas, we can collaborate, we can inspire each other, we can teach each other. And so we're all kind of teaching each other different classes and stuff like that. And I said to him, and you can see this is how I think, I said to him, well, so like, are you charging everyone?
What's in it for you?
Right? Like, I said to him, are you charging
what's the
everyone?
catch?
And he goes, no, everyone's just splitting it, bro. It's like, and I was like, wow, like, because often even with retreats, even though there is all that positivity, it's still you're paying for your ticket, which is fine.
Yeah.
There's no issue with that.
Yeah.
In fact, that's a model that I'm thinking about with Freshly Grounded. But the fact that he's not doing that is even more, I think, inspiring. The fact that he said, no, like, this is just, I just want to get everyone together. And we're all just splitting it. Whatever costs there, we're just splitting the cost. And we're just here to help each other.
If anything, the cost is on him. All of the hours, the time, the
Yeah.
conversations, the efforts. I helped him a little bit put together the schedule.
You've done a phenomenal job. It's been great.
But that was it, basically. He even booked the tickets for me. He booked the villa.
Wow.
He invited everyone. He's constantly on his phone. Maybe we can pull this person. Yesterday, we had the CEO of Wahed speak to us. He was phenomenal,
Really?
subhanAllah. He was next level.
Wow.
Guys got serious business knowledge, know-how. And yeah, so the cost, most of the cost is on him. Everything, 16 of us ate yesterday at a restaurant. He paid.
No.
We'll split it eventually,
Fine.
which we all going to make sure that it happens, but it's all going from his account.
Wow, bless him, man.
So, and subhanAllah, these are the things that when, and if you look at his life, mashallah, he is blessed in many, many ways. Many, many ways. And this is all coming because of the selflessness that he has.
He's very
mashallah.
selfless. Do you know
Very
what?
selfless.
You know, everybody has a mission. You said your mission is to help Muslims have like that time and freedom. I haven't asked him, but it seems like his mission is just like selflessness and to help brothers to
Whatever he can.
Yeah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Yeah,
And-
but
and-
not from an angle of weakness, not from a weakness, not from like a how can I help you, but from a position of power, which is even more inspiring.
Yeah. And actually, my vision this year actually has taken a bit of a pivot, and hence the pivot in the content that I'm now thinking, okay, you know what? I've spent a good amount of time helping people in a 9-to-5 transition. But the big play, actually, if I really look at the big picture, is we have a lot of Muslim businesses and entrepreneurs. How do we get them to lead their industries and become the alternatives to all of the businesses on a boycott list, for example?
Yeah,
Look
yeah.
at how long that list is.
Yeah,
Man, we have to carry that list because literally everything in the supermarket
yeah,
is on the boycott list.
right.
So would it help the ummah? That's sort of my thesis. Would it help the ummah in overall if Muslims smashed it in business in every country? My assumption is that it would help in many ways. There'll be more influence, more employment of Muslims. There'll be more money flowing into projects, charities, politics. So it's almost like the capitalistic version of the J word. So let's play, let's do this. Let's try and help Muslim business owners level up to the point where they reach the top of their industry. And my main thesis is that as Muslims, we actually have so many advantages compared to a non-Muslim. And that was my session yesterday, was all about this. It's like, guys, we have so many advantages by virtue of being a Muslim and having faith and having certain things in our Islamic tradition, that it should be impossible for us not to be at the top of every industry.
Well, we spoke about this
wake
yesterday, didn't we? We said that we have the secret formula.
We do.
The
You
secret
said it, and I was like, boom. When you were talking, I was like,
Well, we spoke about it before then, right? Both of us kind of connected because we were talking about kind of like the baraka, the business of baraka,
yeah.
right?
Yesterday, I went quite deep in a few of those things. So we defined what baraka is in the first place. We discussed why it is the ultimate competitive advantage for
The
us.
ultimate competitive advantage,
Ultimate.
of course.
Ultimate.
It's beautiful because what I was saying about the formula is essentially that there's facts and figures, there's maths, there's actual formulas that help people in business and that can determine success, right? Like an example of a formula is that if you are making more money than you're spending, you're going to be in profit,
in
right?
trouble, big trouble.
No, if you're making more money,
Oh,
than you're
yeah.
spending, right?
Okay, fair.
Yeah. So, or if you, and that's like a basic formula. If you are eating more calories than you're spending, you're going to be, you're going to have more weight, right?
Yeah.
And so these are just like formulas, but we have a formula that we know to be true. That is the most factual formula that wins every time, and that is not known by anyone who is not Muslim, essentially.
Exactly.
And that is the formula of baraka. And that is that, my religion tells me to leave this for the sake of Allah, I'll leave it. Even though it doesn't make sense because like the API is quite good there or whatever. I know that that's not something that's permissible for me. So that if I follow that formula, I'll know I'll win. And it's a known formula. We know it's tried and tested. No one's ever been able to,
Prove otherwise.
And also, it has the ultimate success to it, which is Jannah. Right, we're all trying to achieve Jannah, and that comes from staying on the correct side of those decisions. And so, even if you don't see the fruits of your labor in this life, you will most definitely see it in the next. And you'll be so grateful when you do.
Yeah. And it's actually you mentioned the formula, but do people know what are the components of that formula? Because it's just it's a little bit more than just leaving something, right? There's so many components to it and different strategies.
Right.
So I think I've done 3 sessions now. I've got a 12-week how to bring baraka in business boot camp, and yesterday we just spoke about one, which is Sadaqah, and the different levels of it and why it brings growth and multiplication in your wealth. And subhanAllah, and there's different levels of Sadaqah, and there's different types of Sadaqah, subhanAllah. So what our brother, we'll say his name, right? But he wants to keep a low profile.
I feel like he wants to keep it
low profile.
Yeah.
He's doing Sadaqah with his time
Yeah.
and his ideas. He's benefiting us with his time and ideas. There's not necessarily direct monetary sort of input from him,
Right.
although there is, but he will be reimbursed, inshallah. And there's Sadaqah with knowledge that we can do. So like, how much of our knowledge are we giving to others and sharing with others and all of that? That always brings a return greater than what you've given.
Yeah.
There's also levels, and this is just one example. There's levels of Sadaqah. One is like, it's a comfortable £30 a month. Or we're a business that will give 10% of our profits to charity. Fantastic, very good. That will bring some barakah. But then there's level 2, which is where you go out of your way to do something substantial.
Okay.
It takes time, it takes planning, it takes organization. So probably maybe like a charity event or some sort of charity project or some sort of community project. And then there's level 3, which is where the miracles happen. That's when you give Sadaqah to a level where it becomes painful, scary, obscene amounts of Sadaqah, that if anybody was to find out, they would think you're gone crazy. Like, how can you? That's where the miracles happen. That's when, you may give somebody $5,000 that you don't know. You don't know this person. You know they're in need, you give it. And within 16 hours, a client comes for a 10K package, subhanAllah. You start seeing miracles like that. So, knowing this gives us an advantage, massive advantage. It's the best investment. Sadaqah is the best investment. So as a Muslim entrepreneur, if I know that there is a guaranteed investment that always comes back multiplied, I need to squeeze the hell out of this. And that's where the miracles happen. And guess what? Non-Muslims know this secret as well. There's millionaires that I've learned from. They said the more you give, the more you get. Guys, this is the secret. The more you give, the more you get. So that's just one thing. I'll quickly mention something else, which is to always give more than you have to. Give a bit more time. Give a bit more.
You kind of need to feel the pain a bit, right?
Yeah, in terms of as a philosophy or as a value in your business or as a person, always give more.
Right. Yeah.
So I feel a bit bad that I came empty-handed today,
No, don't be
but
silly.
it was a bit of a mad one today.
Don't be silly.
But it's almost like if somebody needs 5 minutes of your time, give them 10. If somebody needs 1 referral, give them 2. Just go out of your way to give more, because that will always come back in return.
Well, I always say to my wife that you can always... I don't know if this is true or if it's just like an intuition thing, but I say that you can always tell when a meal has been cooked with love.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But you can, or maybe it's just psychological. But it's
No,
similar
I think you
in
can. I
you
think
can, right?
You
Like
can.
you don't want something to be whipped up, which is fine because sometimes something just
Yeah.
needs to get whipped up. Like if I'm ever cooking, bro, it's been whipped up, right? But then when something's been made with love, and obviously love in like Urdu and maybe like your names
Yeah.
we'd say PR, right?
Yeah,
Or in
yeah.
Punjabi.
Yeah.
And so there's some words that I can only say in like Urdu Punjabi. Even if I'm speaking English, PR is one of them. So I'm like, you tell one's food has just been made with PR.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. It's like, you know, my older sister cooks like that as well. When she cooks, you can kind of tell that she's putting a lot of thought into the person that she's cooking
Effort.
for. It's just
Mashallah.
little differences and things that like they might, or they remember something. But anyway, the point is that you notice that as well when somebody puts a little extra thought into your interactions in general.
Yeah.
A little bit of extra PR, right?
Yeah.
And that could be in the form of somebody remembering that you don't like a certain thing,
Yeah.
and so they don't do that, or that you do like a certain thing and then they do that and they bring that or something like that. And I always remember those interactions very fondly, and I think that's what like improves relationships as well, right? Like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
You gave the Apple example yesterday.
Yes.
What
did
do
I
they
say?
do? That they will pair you with someone. If you're a runner,
Yes.
speak to him.
My teammates, my colleagues are one.
They're going above and beyond.
Yeah.
Going above and beyond is a prophetic mindset.
Mm.
When you go above and beyond with your teammates, with your employees, obviously with your customers, always, with all your stakeholders, when you go above and beyond, something magical happens.
So what are the other pillars of the formula of baraka? Then you mentioned sadaqah. What else?
So
I remember sneakingly looking at your notebook yesterday, and I think
I've got a few things.
Yeah, I
I've got
think-
it with me. I
Okay,
brought it just in case.
I think I saw taqwa on there.
So the second one that I recently taught is purifying,
Okay.
which is purify your life and your business from anything that is haram. Number 2, anything that is disliked. Number 3, anything that is unethical, anything that is unjust. Because you can't expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to place blessings, divine blessings, in something that is poisonous and rotten and foul smelling. You got to purify it. So then as business owners, we need to do an audit. That is there anything in my business that could be classed as haram? That's level 1. Then, okay, is there anything in my business that could be classed as makruh or disliked? Is there anything, and the examples vary anything from, am I using music in my marketing videos? Is there anything I need to review in my contracts? Is there anything in my policies which is not actually ethical right now?
Am I paying my
So-
employees on time?
All of those things.
Yeah.
Are the terms, the contracts that you have with your employees, are they any? Do they have anything that is unjust or unethical? So anything that would displease Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you gotta remove and purify. Even if it means logically that you might be at higher risk of something or at a higher chance of making a loss of all of those things. Because the thing with baraka is that it defies logic. It defies the laws of science. And that's why it's so powerful. Because we can operate in a completely different paradigm. You called it we're in the business of baraka. So we want to operate in a completely different paradigm than everyone else. We can tap into the unseen. We can rely on the unseen at any moment. So that is an important exercise to purify your life. You know, sometimes we're so busy, and I've had this, unfortunately, in some of my previous businesses, that were so busy, so much going on. Bro, got 4 minutes, and Asr is about to start, even on Dhuhr yet. So things like that are not going to help bring the barakah. Do you understand? So it's better to say no to 3 clients and be like, okay, it's time to pray, I need to go. It's time to pray, I need to go. So that will actually logically means you're saying no to revenue. But in the unseen paradigm, that will bring bigger opportunities.
Often you also find that when you're dealing with people, when they see that you do things that are out of the norm, like say, oh no, sorry, I've got to go pray. Actually, you find you're quite attracted to principled people. and you think, do you know what? That even though you made me wait, I like the fact that you're principled and I want to do business with you. I've seen that happen quite a few times. Even when, like, for example, we're employing people, as an employer or someone on a team who's helping to decide on who's going to join the team, as you know, you it's very rare that you actually look at the kind of like experience and the hard skills or the academic background you look at as like a stage one thing, like as an initial thing. After that, you're looking at all of these like signals and principles, and sometimes it's something that you would think that this is going to put you off somebody that actually makes you go, do you know what, that's the kind of person I want in this team. Or if somebody says no, you say, like, you know, do you think you could handle this kind of work? They're like, do you know what, no, that's not what I focus on, and I want to be able to give my best to you, and it's not a good idea for you if you're giving that kind of work to me. You're like, like if somebody said no to me, I would have gone, I'm not having this person on my team. But actually the way they said no, they're actually like looking out for me. I actually want this person on my team more. Yeah. Right. So I guess that's a notion of like being authentic and true to yourself, and knowing that if you are authentic and you are principled, that's a long-term play. It is, and it works. I mean, we have situations where we need to speak to agents, and sometimes, you know, some of these people we deal with, they have thousands of properties, as in own them. Wow. Family offices. That's and insane. Imagine that you're sitting there with a billionaire and it's like, you know, there's a clause in your contract. We need to change that because it's talking about late payment fees. If we're late with our, a similar thing you have. And sometimes I'm thinking, you know what, it's not really that deep. Let it slip. Comes to you, let it slip. Yeah. But then it's like, no, alhamdulillah, me and my, my business partner is also, mashallah, very, very firm. Mashallah, Allah bless him and increase him. He actually takes all the credit for the growing the business to where it's at. That's all his credit. My only credit is maybe attracting a bit of baraka by helping others. And that's, again, very much linked. We've seen miracles in our business, subhanallah. Like things you wouldn't expect, things, the growth we've had, in 3 years, is usually you would see that in 7. SubhanAllah. But yeah, it comes down to these moments when you're sitting with a billionaire and you're saying, we need to change this because it goes against my values. And their reaction is interesting. They respect it. So I respect that. How can we change it? It still needs to. So obviously sometimes just the case of changing the wording. Sometimes you got to remove it completely. But you're completely right. Yeah. People do respect the fact that we have certain things that we will not compromise on. Yeah, it's actually something that I battle with a bit on this podcast, actually, because I find I enjoy consuming content where I can see that the person is stands for something and is principled, which means that they're going to also get people that dislike them, and then they get people who like them. And I think with Freshly Rounded, sometimes we try our best to be, we don't try and sit on the fence. I think it's very clear, our stance on all issues are very clear, but I do think that we try and play the long-term game of saying, look, we can have a benefit here on a wider scale, but sometimes I think, are we opinionated enough, right? And I don't mean on the obvious stuff, right? Like we're very, we would never be shy to speak about our stance on the genocide taking place in Palestine, or issues that are important like that. But I think more so things like, for example, we don't delve into what our opinion is on, like, I don't know, which method to follow for us. Right, yes, things like that. But I think that there's beauty in when you make people, when you pee people off, basically. There's beauty. I think there is. I think because then what you do is you stand for something, right? Not everybody's going to agree. But the thing is, you are technically a host, meaning you bring guests. That's true, right? I mean, in the content that I consume. So I think with Freshly Ground, I think we probably do it right? Yeah. But as a host, you want to be accommodating. But you want to be respectful. But there's certain things you will not accept as a host from a guest. I suppose if in the podcast one, it doesn't make as much sense because you're right. You're just hosting. But I think it's more so when I'm consuming content, but people make like surefire decisions that could be controversial, like for example in the business world. I like watching that content because at least they're sure about themselves. So you could look at someone like on a wide scale, someone like Jeff Bezos, and you could say, okay, people might criticize him a lot because of his stance on when he initially had his stance on customer service, right, in the business. He said that people are never going to say, "Oh, the customer service is so good," and so let's. The customer service is too good, so I don't like Amazon. He said people are always going to enjoy good customer service, so let's make it better, let's make it faster, right? Wow. I'm sure there's those people in the business that were thinking that's not cost effective, Jeff, right? But because it was an opinion and because he stood by it and he wasn't loose on it, it's kind of like. Nice to see that he had an opinion that was so strong,
and he worked out for them.
It works out, right? And so
for him.
I think, I guess what I'm getting at is that there's beauty in having strong opinions, and there's something attractive about that.
Mm-hmm. That surety that you're not easily swayable, and
and that's what principles are, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what principles are. So that's like with the contract saying, look, we're not willing to sign a contract that has this clause, and it's kind of like, oh, that's quite cool that. That would annoy me otherwise, but the fact that he's so strong on that is kind of like, okay, if he's principled about that, he probably is quite a well-principled person.
Which obviously means he's probably going to be principled about our relationship working together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I guess that's the point I was making. I made it as I do in the most long-winded way that I've
Alhamdulillah, make complete sense.
You see the comments now, like, oh, the host just takes so long to get to a point. Is that the most common criticism?
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, so... we're almost coming up to the hour mark, and but I do want to go over some of those other principles. Yeah. So we said Sadaqah and we said Purify. What else do we have?
Give more is one that I recently, which is always go above and beyond. And there's books written on this from non-Muslims. Customer service principles, going above and beyond. You just gave the example of Jeff Bezos. But for us, it's something that is wired in. We always want to give more, whatever it is. We just want to, so that's something that always brings barakah. But what we find sometimes with business owners, they try and find, how can I give a bit less, save a bit, maybe a smaller chicken wing. Let's make them ask me for the tissue paper. I don't want to give the tissue paper. Yeah,
it's true, bro.
It happens everywhere. I don't know if it's understandable, cost of living, costs go up and whatnot, but we should be thinking, how can we give more? In fact, you can see this principle in action. If you look at any, let's stick to the food example. Any restaurant that's doing really, really, really well, what's their portions like? Generous or very, very stingy?
I suppose generous, right?
Always. So they go above and beyond.
Or at least consistent.
Consistently
so
generous,
you know what you're going to get. Yeah.
Nobody goes twice to a place where they think they should have given me a bit more. I don't feel like I got my money's worth.
Yeah.
So we see these principles in action, alhamdulillah. So there's other things, there's another one, which is to align yourself with the divine attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because that is, if you ask someone, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala love the most? What would your answer be? Like, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala love the most? That's a tough question.
It's a tough question. No, it's fine. I enjoy it. I'm trying to think back to the ayat in the Quran where or ahadith that talks about Allah's love, right? Yeah. Things that come to mind is like, I was just listening to a lecture yesterday or the day before about sabr, and there was a lot about Allah loving sabr, and that how He's with the person or patience and stuff. So, but I suppose like on a wider scale, you would say, just like iman and worship. There's loads of elements.
The Quran talks about Wallahu yuhibbul muhsinin was sabirin. And also, who's the most beloved individual in the whole of creation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
The Prophet
sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves patient people is because He is as-sabur. It's one of His divine qualities. If He likes, when Allah likes people who are mutatahirin, is because He's at-tahir. He's the most pure. So even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the reason why he is the most loved is because he embodies the most divine attributes in a human form.
You know, that's incredible.
In a human form.
Yeah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ar-Rahman. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Rahmatul lil Alameen. And we can give loads of examples like this, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves his divine attributes. So if we can connect and reflect these attributes, then that surely will bring the love and the attention of Allah to us. So, for example, I don't know if you know Tariq Halal Meat.
Yeah.
They smashed it.
Yeah.
What did they do differently than any other butcher?
I don't know.
Have you ever been inside?
I have.
What did you notice?
I didn't get the vibe that sometimes you get in kind of like halal butcher shops, which is like, you know, manic. It looked structured and organized and clean.
Okay, boom. Cleanliness.
Yeah.
You go in there and it's immaculate, spotless. There's no bad smells.
No.
There's no flies.
Things are quite organized on the shelves and stuff like that.
Everything's nice and everything's clean. There's a sense of cleanliness and purity that they've done, which is just a one strategic move different from everybody else.
Are they based in the East as well?
They're everywhere, bro.
Yeah, are they?
They're everywhere.
Yeah, because I'm from West Obviously, so I've seen them in
Everywhere.
Southall and stuff like that.
Everywhere now. From Ilford to Stratford to Manor Park to Beckton, they're everywhere. SubhanAllah. And I look at that as a business case study. What did they do differently? And the only thing I can point to is
That you can see.
clean, organized, nice environment. And then the question is, why does that help in business? And I see baraka when I see a butcher shop. It's literally, they're just selling meat. When they're able to just open up 30 branches, I don't think it's ever been done before, bro. It's almost like chaiwala, just popping up everywhere. For me, it's because my thesis is they've aligned themselves with something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes. And hence, they're now recipients of some form of barakah. Another question is, what divine attribute or quality can I align myself with?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, I like that question. That's a good question.
And that could be a game changer.
That could be a game changer.
In fact, I have an interesting concept, and maybe we can collaborate on this. I want to do a Netflix-style show where we go to Muslim businesses, and all we do is show them a few ways of implementing barakah, and then come back 6 months later, see what happens.
Oh, I love that idea, man. Yeah, I'm down.
I'm calling in me, you, and Muhammad Faris.
Yeah, I'm in, man.
Because you two are the only people that I've really heard speak. Obviously, he's written a book on barakah.
Yeah.
But there's not many people very vocal about it in the business world.
Yeah, I think people know it for sure. But I was saying yesterday in my seminar that there's two different types of, courses and videos and stuff. And there's the how videos and there's the what videos. And it's very easy to give the what videos, which is like, guys, it's really important to have barakah in your business. But I think the more valuable videos are the how videos.
Yeah.
Here's how to have barakah in your business.
Yes.
I think that's a bit more difficult. I think you have to put frameworks together. I think you have to study things and really go into it and research. So, and which you've obviously
I'm trying
done.
to. I'm trying to.
You've done.
I'm trying to now.
It's amazing. On the concept of like the divine attributes, I remember like really early on in my journey, hearing that somebody say, what you should try and do is you can't reach the status of these attributes, but the goal is to look at the attributes that Allah has that we know of, and to try and have those attributes. So like you said, Allah is Ar-Rahman, so you should be merciful.
Yeah.
Allah is
Most forgiving.
The most forgiving. You should forgive.
No.
Even things like if you look, there's Allah is your protecting friend. You should be a protecting friend to your friends.
SubhanAllah.
And things like that. So that resonated with me a lot. I think about that quite often. So, and actually, Mud's he gifted me the
book.
99 Names of Allah book that they've done with Quwa. So I'm very interested in looking into that. Tanim, I want to make sure that we get time to go to our to the rest of the retreat.
Yes.
And so I'm going to end the podcast here, but I really do
Barakallah
appreciate your
feekum.
time, man. Honestly, it was amazing. I've been seeing your content for a while, and I'm really glad that we were able to connect. And I hope that this is the first of many.
I am an avid fan of the show, so for me it's surreal to be sitting here with you. MashaAllah.
I hope
May Allah
we
bless
lived up
you
to
and increase you,
expectations.
inshallah.
Ameen. Ajoo.
Barakallah
Assalamu alaikum, bro.
feekum.